What's up, guys? It's Havoc here. Doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel. Probably going to start breaking some games down more regularly. But I'm just going to break down this game today between me and Ray. As you can see, Ray is position 2 for Vermont, and I'm position 4 for UK. It was an interesting game I played last night. I just thought what I would do is kind of break down my thought process throughout the game, call out some key decisions, and hopefully, provide a little bit of like educational content to you guys to help you improve and see what kind of decisions we make and how we think about things at this level in the game. Obviously, this is 1v1s, but generally, like the principles and some of the mindsets will carry over to whatever size of games you guys typically like to play. So with that, we're going to kick it off on Taranto Coastline here. My typical opener, regardless of what map I'm playing, is the second sappener in construction. You can see here into infantry, or the section command post here. On Taranto Coastline, the main things you want to be thinking about are getting early fuel control, maintaining that control throughout, because this area of the map is usually very contentious and where you're going to see a lot of opposition. Because of these +10s, it also creates some pretty precarious retreat paths, as you can see, because you oftentimes end up having to run straight through the middle of the map, which can make it pretty dangerous to attack some of these areas. So generally, the best thing to do is to play relatively safe in these areas, and when you're making big concerted attacks, to do it with groups of units rather than individual units to prevent possibility of being picked off. So with your first sapper, you're usually going to run up the side. This applies to both sides of the map, just to secure your fuel as quickly as possible. And one of the things I like to do on this side of the map specifically is put sandbags up against the fence here, and put wire on the far side of the tractor to make it so that it's difficult for your opponent to get a good defensive position if they decide to attack your +10 fuel, and also providing yourself an avenue to defend it by walking just on the edge of this capture circle to deny a neutralize or a capture, and then going from there. Down on the south side, it's a great idea to fortify your +16 munitions, wire up the sandbags, wire up the green cover that's facing you so that it's hard to attack. Same sort of principle is up here. And then generally you're going to want to move your troops towards the north side of the map quickly, because if your opponent pushes in with a large group of units and starts to take control of some of the buildings, it can be really difficult to dislodge them. So I saw that he had a grenadier and a pioneer down here at the beginning. I decided to retreat quickly and just come back with a bigger force next time so that I would be able to put up a better fight and not take too much damage. That's also a critical thing. So here, we're just kind of probing the middle. One of the more effective strategies that we've seen for Vermont recently is just using a lot of grenadiers together in a big group. So I'm just using my Tommies where they're most effective, which is at long range, and try not to engage him too closely and just keep aligned to the green cover so that I'm not under threat of him taking control of these buildings, because it can be very difficult to recover this area if your opponent gets control of these buildings, and this map is uniquely difficult for that. This side is not as bad. These buildings aren't close to each other, so they don't support each other as well, but these two can be very difficult to push back into. I just want to call out something here. So I had spotted his machine gun a little bit earlier. Anytime you know there's a machine gun, trying to approach it from two highly, distance angles is going to give you the ability to get vision on it and then flank with the other unit. So that's what we're doing here. And you can see it's going to force his machine gun to retreat in this area. He's got a pioneer here, but that's no match for the sapper squad at close range. So you can see I'm just going to do some damage, continue to chase the MG until I see the retreat. And now I'm going to focus my attention to where I know the rest of his units are. because I want to apply enough pressure that I can start pushing into his side of the fuel. Just chasing down the pioneers, but don't want to get too close because of these grenadiers. Again, just playing very careful with these units. Don't want to overcommit, while my other units here just secure territory and start to get into position. Ray made the mistake here of trying to close the gap, and this is why it's so important to use your Tommies and your sappers together, because your Tommies are most effective at long range and your sappers at short. So generally what your opponent's going to want to do is get a numerical advantage and try to close the gap so that they're, like, the Grenadiers are better at close range than the Tommies are, because the Tommies have a flat damage curve, and the Grenadiers kind of goes like this, as do most units in the game, where they're most effective at close range, and then it sort of starts to drop off as they get further away. But the Tommies are flat. They'll do pretty much the same damage at every range. And then sappers, of course, with their SMGs, they're much more effective at close range. So basically what you're doing is you're trying to engage your opponent with the Tommies at long range, force them to close the gap, and then use the sappers to come in and support and kind of scare them away. Because if he committed to this and got really close, he probably would have lost this unit. In the meantime, we're just moving our other units into position to get on the retreat path. He's getting a little bit too aggressive here. I'm going to see if I can pick up maybe this Grenadier on retreat, or this Pioneer. Engaging him around the VP. Going to keep him busy here. Now I can see that he's in this building here, and I'm right in his line of retreat. So I'm going to think about what is the best way that I can dependably or reliably try to get a kill on the unit that he has up here. So as I'm thinking about that, I'm going to take my least healthy sapper and plant a mine on a path of retreat that I know he's going to go. And then by engaging him with the rest of my units, I'm going to force him to retreat out of this area. And you'll see here. Because of that mine, we were able to pick up this Grenadier squad. Now, I've been really quick, and I think an important thing to think about when you're playing UK is generally the Humber is going to be your answer to early support weapons, or we'll call it tier 1.5 infantry from Axis. So this is going to be your Jaegers or your Panzer Grenadiers. The Humber is the best answer to that. With the UK, generally I'm not going medical tent super early on unless I take a ton of damage. And in this case, I'm doing the same thing where I'm getting my Humber under construction before considering my medical tent. And this is going to give me lots of firepower, some space, and the smokes on it also make it a very useful unit to force team weapons to move or reposition or block line of sight, that sort of thing. He's got a big group of units engaging here. It's going to deal a little bit of damage. And then I'm going to full retreat, because I don't want to take too much bleed. And I want to be able to come back and deal some more damage to the units that chase me off. Because I don't want to give him control of this +10. On Taranto Coastline especially, giving away your +10 is the fastest way to get your opponent a big enough fuel advantage that they'll start to snowball the game out of control. So you want to do everything in your power to maintain control of that +10 up there. Just using the Humber to keep some distance between my units and the Grenadiers. It's great for poking as well. Now, I didn't actually see it, but he managed to plant a mine here, which put me in a bit of a precarious situation. I was afraid maybe he was going to come in with a 2-2-1 with the Panzerbuska, but thankfully he did not opt to go for that this game. Again, continuing to want to maintain control of this +5. This can also be the difference between, you know, getting a tank another minute or two later or earlier than you normally would. So having your CQC unit, especially an engineer with some kind of a sweeper, because this is a very common spot for mines. As you can see, I planted one here. maintaining control of this fuel is very important to building your lead on this map. So I don't want him to chase down my Humber, so I'm trying to deter him by keeping him busy with this infantry section. You can see I ran into a mine here, so managed to get a good flank on his machine gun, and we forced that full retreat. Now we're just going to focus on grabbing up territory as quickly as possible. And continuing to try to take good engagements from green cover. Now, something I'm thinking about is I know he's gone officer quarters because of the vet one that he has on all of his infantry. I don't want to allow him to start to snowball each of the infantry engagements. So at this point, I'm thinking about infantry training. But I'm also trying to be mindful of, like, I don't really know what he's gone for tech because I haven't seen anything from the Jaeger command structure or the Panzer Grenadier Company. So I'm just trying to be thoughtful about like what I'm going to go for next, because I know I could be expecting a vehicle from him sometime soon, but I just don't know what it's going to be at this point. Just getting this repair back up. Now, because I've hit so many mines at this point and I haven't upgraded my sappers, I decided to go for sweepers on both of them. And this turned out to be a great decision in the long run. And as you can see down here, you know, he's planted another mine. He's being really deliberate about trying to defend this fuel. So I've gone down here with the sweeper to push off his Pioneer and grab control of this again. Here I'm just engaging with my Humber at max range. You can see my training is procced, which is going to allow my infantry to take much better fights against the Grenadiers. I should win most of the time now with training. Trying to keep my distance from the machine gun. Also trying to deter him from getting control of this +5 again. Brought a section down here to support this. Put my section here at a flanking position on the machine gun. We're just trying to keep him from penetrating this middle section here. Deal some damage. And this engagement right here, this is a perfect example of exactly the kind of engagement you want with your sections. Because your sections are most effective at long range, and especially with green cover and training, I can be really confident that he's not going to win this engagement. He's not going to do any meaningful damage to me, but he is buying himself time because he's got control of this +5 fuel. Just going to start to move to try to flank this squad and see if maybe I can threaten a kill on it. But I can see his machine gun and Grenadier coming in. I'm staying out of the line of sight of the machine gun. I know he's set up right here, so I don't want to move this way or that way, so I don't run into it. Humber's going to come back in to disrupt the machine gun. Machine gun's already used his Vet 1, so I'm going to get really aggressive on him, as you can see here. And now I can see that he's got the 20mm flak. Now, anytime you've got a unit that's kind of like this, you're not, you know, really in direct combat, but you've taken a lot of damage. This is a great time to retreat this unit and heal them, because you're going to save yourself a lot of manpower in the long term. If you look at the squad itself, you can see like there's quite a few models that are quite unhealthy. And so doing this several times throughout the game is going to allow you to build up that manpower advantage that you need to get a critical mass unit advantage over your opponent eventually. So you can see I retreated down here. Now I'm going to respond to his push in the north. Actually, I don't know if you heard that here, but sometimes you can hear the enemy planting mines in the fog of war. It just makes that kind of like high-pitched metal clinking sound. I did manage to hear that up here, so you can see I'm responding by moving my sapper up here to the area where I heard it. Now he's on my +10, and this is a perfect time for me to use the cover that I planted at the beginning of the game, and you'll see it here. He can't take cover behind the tractor, sorry, because I blocked it with wire. Moving my section into the green cover here that I planted, and he knows that, yeah, he's not going to be able to capture it, so he's going for the retreat. Threw the grenade a little bit too late there, but this is a great way to try to score some hits on the squads while they're retreating. Generally, what you want to do is, like, if you have a squad that's about here, and say this is your unit throwing the grenade, you want to throw it about like 10 to 15 units in front of them, because between the time it takes to throw the grenade and then the timer on it, it's usually going to be about this distance when it's on a retreat path. So something to think about when you're trying to pick up some unit kills. Didn't manage to get quite the damage I hoped on this. Now, I went for Gurkhas here because I noticed that he had gone for the 20mm flak. I also know that he's very grenadier heavy, so I wanted to continue to build my infantry prowess and advantage. And initially what I was thinking, I was probably going to go for the Thompson submachine guns because his grenadiers weren't going to be able to deal significant damage, and it would also allow me to quickly storm and overwhelm this 20mm flak, which, if I can steal, is going to be a very effective weapon on my side. I'm also getting like pretty close to tier 4, and I haven't seen any vehicles from him yet, so at this point I would suspect that he might be going for tier 4 and going for like Panzer IV or Brumbar, but I wasn't too sure at this point. And as you can see, I'm about to get a rude awakening. I can actually hear through the fog of war he's got a vehicle coming, so you'll probably notice I respond with the Humber here, backing up pretty quickly. Yeah. I can hear him coming, so I'm going to try to plant some mines defensively. I tech grenades on my sections. This is something a lot of players forget to do and can really make the difference between getting completely crushed by a Werble or something like this and surviving. So it's good that I tech the grenades because it's probably what saves my Humber in the long run. And at this point, you know, I'm feeling kind of bad about my Gurkha choice at this point. In hindsight, what I probably should have done is built a AT gun preemptively, but again, it's kind of difficult to be prepared for this. If he didn't go for Werble and I built an AT gun, that would be like a lot of upkeep that I'm paying just to have an AT gun that's going to do nothing for me. So that's generally why I don't try to build AT guns proactively when a lot of players do. But in this case, because I had the grenades, you know, I was able to buy myself the time I needed to eventually get an AT gun, which is what I need to do with this as I'm making my way to tier 4. And this decision actually cost me a lot, which you'll see in terms of map control here, because he's able to run completely rampant with the wirbelwind, and I have nothing that can deal with him. So, you know, maybe in hindsight, going for the 6-pounder a little bit earlier might have been a better choice than going for the Gurkhas when I did.
Enemy ground forces the enemy has our victory points now. Infantry are standing.
So I'm just trying to buy time and get his attention, get him to bring the Werble to places that he's not going to be able to support other positions. So that's part of the reason I'm keeping this squad down here, is I'm trying to bait the Werble so that I can try to maintain control of my +10 up here. Unfortunately, I ate a Faust from this Grenadier that was hiding behind the building. But again, the snare grenades here coming in really handy, allowing me to buy the time I needed to repair the Humber.
The enemy has pushed us back from our sector.
So we got our 6-pounder out. We're able to deal some meaningful damage to that wirbelwind now. We just need to make sure that it's well covered at all times with the Tommies.
Territory sector lost, Commander.
So I'm start planting a mine there, but it looks like he didn't finish it. I'm just setting up this proactively in case he decides to push in. Oops, left my thing on hold fire here. Another call out. This road right here is a great place for mines. I hit mines here all the time. My opponents typically plant some good mines here. It's a commonly traversed area, especially when you're playing against an aggressive opponent. So I'll respond quickly with my 6-pounder, forcing him off the +5. Diffusing the mines with the sweepers. Get another snare on this. And finally, now he's going to be forced to repair it for a little bit, which is going to buy me the time that I need to take a little bit of damage from that. Got 1 on the MG there. And now I'm going to start thinking about my tier 4. I want to get to tier 4 as quickly as possible so that I have a mobile answer to that wirbelwind. As you can see, you know, this is a perfect example of, like, now that I lost this north area, it's really hard for me to push back in, especially without a flamethrower, because of the control that he's managed to get. Infantry's still doing good work. I need to reinforce my AT gun, so I pulled it all the way back to base. And I'm thinking about getting my tier 4 up pretty soon. Thankfully, I have volunteer infantry now, which is going to reduce the bleed from my manpower in this case. Managed to get a good flank on these 2 weapons. Setting up the 6-pounder to protect my infantry here. Can't push in. Did I manage to pick up this grenadier? Oh, not quite. Humber comes in to protect the AT gun from the pioneers. And now I'm going to be able to start making my way and grabbing control of the north part here again, but he's still got quite a lot of troops here. Trying to move my 6-pounder in to protect the flank on this. Use my Humber to poke this infantry. He's doing a really good job of pressuring this area. Good grenade. Trying to decrew it so he can push in with the Wirbel that he's got. But he does overcommit here. Managed to get the snare off that's going to finish this wirbelwind. My section barely surviving there. Little bit of reprieve, but we're still facing a lot of opposition from the wirbelwind. The VPs are ticking down. Now he's got another one. Trying to get my AT gun out of there, but he's being super aggressive here. Now I need to keep control of this AT gun. I can't give it to him, so that's why I'm going in here with my Gurkha. I refit my Humber. For those of you that don't know, this is like one of the best parts about the British is this ability, withdraw and refit from the tier 4 structure. It allows you to take any vehicle on the map and refund it. It basically retreats off map, and then you get a full refund for whatever resources you paid for it. So I managed to get a bunch of manpower and 35 fuel back, which I'm going to transition here into a Crusader 2 medium tank, which I wouldn't even be close to if I wasn't able to use the withdraw and refit, because I have no fuel control right now. So he's decrewed my AT gun, but it is like right in front of my base. Should be able to protect it with these sections here. So I'm going to walk my way back out and try to grab that. And I'm getting a little worried about VPs at this point because we're ticking down pretty quickly. He's got a triple cap.
Damnation! The sector's in enemy hands.
Gonna recreate that AT gun. He's anticipating a vehicle now, so we can see he puts a martyr in production, but of course I don't know that yet. We'll find that out shortly. Good cover position here. Putting his machine gun behind the sandbags, using the Pioneers for spotting inside of buildings. Buildings provide great line of sight, so putting like a scout unit in there can be really helpful, giving you a complete picture of the area. Now I've got my first Crusader. So, I want to touch on my decision making here. So, my Crusader's out. He doesn't know that I have this yet. So, I'm going to try to make the best use of the shock value of a unit. The shock value is when it's your opponent's first exposure to whatever new unit you're bringing to the field. This is most prominent with vehicles and some elite infantry. But you basically want to deal as much damage as possible with your unit hitting the field before your opponent has a chance to react and build accordingly. And in this case, the best prime target that I can hit is the wirbelwind. Because if I can kill the wirbelwind, I know that the majority of my infantry is going to beat his. And so what I want to be focused on is how can I find a way to pick off his wirbelwind with the use of this Crusader that I've just built. The way that I did that is and you'll notice when I resume this in a second here, but I sent this sapper down here deliberately by itself. He has full vision of it because he's got a little bit of vision around the capture point. And he's anticipating, or I'm anticipating, that he's going to try to come down here and pick off this sapper squad, or at least force it off of the +5. So the first thing that I do with the Crusader is send it down to bait the wirbelwind in, and if I'm lucky, I'm going to be able to get a good engagement where I can pick it off. You can always hear vehicles in the fog of war, so I know he's coming. I might like reposition the sapper a little bit here. Try to spread the guys out if possible so they're not taking as much damage. But at this point I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about getting him to commit to sticking around for long enough to get the Crusader in. Got a really lucky miss there. Did manage to pick it off. Got the Vet 1 proc. And we're going to get out safely here. So that was like best case scenario for me. And now I'm actually not too far off my second Crusader. The reason why I'm going for Crusaders here is because Crusaders, highly mobile unit. Great at flanking, great at zooming around the map and applying a lot of pressure to different places. This is one of the more common builds that I like to do, where I'm going 3 sections, sometimes into a Gurkha, sometimes a machine gun, could be various other things. Usually 1 AT gun to support all that. Sometimes guards as well, and mass Crusaders can be very, very effective when used as a group. So he's really turning on the pressure right now. He's trying to apply the VP pressure. He knows that if he lets the game go on too much longer, that I'm going to be able to get critical mass of these Crusaders. And so he's trying to close out as quickly as possible, and he has a good possibility of doing it with how many VPs I have left. He's got so much infantry here. Fired a rifleman, but so lucky I didn't lose that section there. And now I know I've got to get a capture point, otherwise I'm gonna bleed out on VPs. Brings the martyr in to support his infantry. I've got my second Crusader coming in. Now, rather than try to push into where he's got all of his units, I'm going to go where I know he's a little bit weaker. He's got a machine gun here, so if I go and force that off with my Crusader, then I should be able to run in and capture this point and just slow down the bleed a little bit. So we're going to lead in, we're going to get behind the cover, we're going to target the machine gun first, so the section can close the gap. Got my AT gun in here supporting, in case I need it. Tried to use a strafe to keep me from capturing the point. Martyrs coming in here. I'm going to respond with the AT gun here shortly. And I'm going to capture this point. Trying to get a little aggressive here with the... Oh, I lost that sapper very quickly. He's probably got a mine there I didn't see. And I'm like, okay, I got to commit now. I've got 13 VPs left. I can't capture this point. I know he's got too many units here. I've secured this bottom section. I want to grab that machine gun because that's going to be useful if I can keep it. And I'm going to move to this victory point instead because I know he's got all his units over here. And I think I can protect my section that's going to capture this point with my crusader if he's forced to come back from the other side. There's a lot happening on the map right now. Managed to flank the martyr, thankfully. Got into a good cover position. And I'm just going to deal as much damage with the crusader as I can. Gotta retreat those units. I'm going to push in with the crusader, try to take some of the pressure off. Hiding from the 20mm flak here. Oh, got some really lucky bounces here. And I'm just dealing as much damage as I can. I need to keep control of this. Flanking the 20mm with the other section. Dove into his base with the other crusader to try to kill the flak. And now I just need to survive this and get my tanks out. Decrewed this. Bringing the crusader back in for the firepower. This section is trying to support the VP here. Just don't want to lose this VP because I know if I lose it, it's going to be over. Kill the Jaeger too. And that Faust. Woo! 5 health. So we've got 6 VPs left. I killed his 20mm flak because I didn't think I'd be able to capture it with this squad here. I'm just trying to get VP control so I can stabilize and repair. At this point, I didn't know what he had left, but I was pretty confident that as long as I didn't lose control of 2 VPs, that I was going to be able to win. And so at this point, I'm just trying to think about staying on the field, making sure I'm covering this center VP, and also trying to keep control of the top here. So I've got this section coming in here. They're going to shoot up a flare quickly because I need to see where he's coming at. I can't be caught unaware. I don't have any time to lose if he does manage to get on top of one of those VPs. Trying to stabilize my fuel income. Gonna queue up a 3rd crusader when I get the manpower for it.
The beggars are threatening a victory point.
Now at this point we're way ahead, but I don't know that. I know I killed some things, but I didn't know how much exactly. I actually thought that he had more units than this. Watching this back. I know I can see he's capturing this point, but I'm actually okay with that. It's not too bad. We already used the flare. Just making sure to get my repairs up on my crusaders. I'm gonna get in here. Toss some artillery in there. Just gonna keep applying some pressure. Bring in another crusader. Luckily I didn't hit that with a crusader.
Always eager to serve.
Crusader cruiser finished.
Unluckiness. So he's got a martyr, so I'm switching targets to what I know it can deal real damage to me. Wow, that Faust range. Oh, that was weird. That the snare did no damage. Thinking I could tempo kill this Werble, but he gets some good bounces here. Very good bounces. Now, I thought about guards at this point, but the reason I decided to stick with Crusaders is because I don't want to give him the flexibility of running around the map with the wirbelwinds and dealing a ton of damage. So for that reason, I opted to continue the Crusader train at this point. I knew I just needed to be fast and respond quickly. The reason I went for armor training at this point is I didn't want to bounce anymore, and I wanted to make sure that I was maximizing the DPS out of my Crusaders when fighting some of the vehicles that he had. Machine gun covering the center VP here, help me out. I'm just using this Crusader to make sure he doesn't dive the other one that's injured. Getting a Bren here on my reload rate. Once you get training is very quick on the Crusaders. They fire very quickly. So, thought maybe he was going to push in here into the AT gun, but not quite. Now, I actually didn't know that he had 2 martyrs, so that was a good pickup by him. I just wanted to make sure he didn't force me off, but ended up losing one of my Crusaders by doing that. And now I know I need to be a little bit more careful with where I'm treading with the Crusaders, because it only takes, I think with the passive, that the first strike passive on the martyrs, they deal bonus damage. I think it's an extra 40 damage, so they deal 200 in each shot, which means it's only 4 shots total to kill a Crusader, which is pretty gnarly. So I'm just going to stay near my AT gun and be safe. Wait for another Crusader, because I know one is not going to be enough for me to deal with this Werble. See, trying to get a grenade on retreat here, but I was a little bit too late. This grenade assault ability on this and on assault grenadiers is great for dealing with those. Gotta get hit in his martyr from my AT gun. Something to be careful of is when you have your infantry in green cover and you have a tank firing behind them, it can deal a lot of friendly fire damage. Just gotta be mindful of that. Trying to dive here my AT gun. Trying to protect it here with the Crusader, but his martyrs are coming in to support. I want to keep dealing damage to this, so I'm skirting around the outside, and I'm using this bush to try to block the line of sight of the martyrs. I ended up firing a last shot attack ground through to finish off the wirbelwind, and I'm just trying to stay moving so he can't hit me. And now I'm going to try to work my way out because I've got the passive proc. Gonna bring in the other Crusader to try and grab them, pick them off while they're chasing. And we got a good flank here on the martyrs. He's not going to be able to respond now. Recruit the AT gun to finish him off. He's trying to push in with the remainder of his infantry. But I think he knows at this point. There's no coming back. So there you have it, guys. That pretty wild game. He almost managed to close it out on me with getting down to the 6 VPs. But I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think of this kind of content. I'm open to doing more of it. So let me know what you think below. And I appreciate you all taking the time to stop by. Have a great day.